The bell above the diner door gave a tired jingle as the morning crowd thinned out, leaving behind the low hum of a coffee machine and the clink of cutlery being stacked. Sunlight poured through the wide front windows, catching dust in the air and painting long shadows across the worn wooden floor. At a corner table near the window sat a 68-year-old man with silver hair neatly combed back, his posture straight despite the years. He wore a faded denim jacket with a small, carefully stitched patch on the chest, nothing flashy, just an old unit insignia most people wouldn't recognize anymore. His hands, weathered and strong, rested around a chipped white mug of black coffee. He took slow sips, eyes calm, as if each moment was something to be appreciated rather than rushed. This was his routine. Every Thursday morning, he came to the same diner, ordered the same breakfast, and sat quietly with his thoughts. The waitress, a young woman named Lily, knew him well enough to bring his plate without asking. 2 eggs over easy, toast, and a side of memories he never spoke about. The door burst open with a loud metallic clang, shattering the calm like thunder. The sudden roar of engines faded outside as a group of bikers stepped in, leather jackets creaking, heavy boots striking the floor with deliberate force. Their laughter was loud, careless, filling the room as if they owned it. The smell of gasoline and cold air followed them in. At the center of the group was a tall man with a shaved head and a thick beard, his jacket covered in patches and symbols. His eyes scanned the diner, lingering on the old man by the window. A crooked smile pulled at his lips. "Look at this place," the biker said loudly, not bothering to lower his voice. "Didn't know they turned it into a retirement home." A few of the bikers chuckled as they took seats nearby. Lily stiffened behind the counter but forced a polite smile. She'd seen trouble before and hoped this wouldn't turn into one of those days. The old veteran didn't react. He simply lifted his mug and took another sip. The biker noticed. He leaned back in his chair, boots propped up on an empty seat, eyes fixed on the patch on the veteran's jacket. "Hey, old-timer," he called out. "That jacket's seen better days. You playing soldier, or is that some kind of costume?" The room went quiet. Forks paused mid-air. A man at another table shifted uncomfortably. Lily glanced at the veteran, half expecting anger, half expecting fear. But the old man remained calm. He slowly set his mug down and looked at the biker, his eyes steady and clear. "It's not a costume," he said softly. "It's a reminder." The biker laughed, loud and sharp. "A reminder of what? That you're past your prime." He stood up, walked a few steps closer, and looked down at the seated veteran. "Guys like you always think they deserve respect just for being old." The veteran met his gaze without flinching. "Respect isn't something you demand," he replied. "It's something you earn." That only fueled the biker's amusement. "Hear that?" he said to his friends. "Grandpa's got wisdom." One of the bikers snorted. Another smirked. The atmosphere thickened with tension, like a storm waiting to break. Lily opened her mouth to intervene, but before she could speak, the veteran raised a gentle hand toward her. It wasn't a command, just a quiet signal. She hesitated, then stepped back, her heart pounding. The biker leaned in closer now, invading the veteran's space. "You know," he said, lowering his voice but keeping it sharp, "people like you should stay home. World's changed. No room for relics." For the first time, something flickered in the veteran's eyes, not anger, but sadness. "I know the world's changed," he said. "I helped protect it while it did." The biker scoffed. "Protected it from what? You probably never saw real action." The veteran smiled faintly, a smile filled with memories no one else in the room could see. "I saw enough," he said. The biker straightened, clearly unimpressed. "Yeah, well, I don't see a hero. I just see an old man taking up space." One of the bikers knocked lightly on the veteran's table with his knuckles. "Finish up, old man. We want this spot." Silence fell again, heavier this time. The veteran looked at his plate, then back up at the biker. "I'm almost done," he said. "You can wait." That was the wrong answer. The biker's jaw tightened. "You don't tell me what to do," he snapped. At that exact moment, the door to the diner opened once more. This time, there was no roar of engines, no loud laughter. Just the solid, measured sound of boots stepping inside. The bell above the door rang softly, almost respectfully. Every head turned. A man in uniform walked in. Not a costume, not a cheap imitation, a real uniform, pressed and clean, with insignia that carried weight. His posture was rigid, disciplined, the kind that came from years of training and responsibility. His eyes swept across the room, taking everything in with quiet authority. The biker froze. The uniformed man's gaze settled on the scene, the bikers, the tension, the old veteran sitting calmly at his table. Then his eyes fell on the patch on the veteran's jacket. Something changed instantly. The uniformed man stopped walking. Slowly, deliberately, he removed his cap and held it against his chest. The room seemed to hold its breath. He took a few steps forward, ignoring the bikers entirely, and stopped in front of the veteran's table. Then, to everyone's shock, he stood at attention. "Sir," he said firmly, his voice clear and respectful, "it's an honor to see you." The veteran looked up, surprised. Recognition dawned in his eyes as he studied the man in uniform. "At ease," he said gently. The uniformed man relaxed slightly but didn't smile. "I'd recognize that insignia anywhere," he continued. "You served with the 3rd Battalion, didn't you?" The veteran nodded. "A long time ago." The uniformed man swallowed. "My grandfather served under that unit," he said. "He used to tell me stories. Said the men from that battalion saved his life more than once." A murmur rippled through the diner. The biker took a step back, confusion replacing his arrogance. "What's this about?" he muttered. The uniformed man turned his head slowly, his eyes locking onto the biker with an intensity that made the room feel smaller. "This man," he said, his voice controlled but firm, "is a veteran. He wore his country's uniform when it mattered most. And he earned more respect than you could imagine." The biker scoffed weakly. "So what? That was years ago." The uniformed man stepped closer to him now. "That doesn't expire," he said. "Honor doesn't have a time limit." The biker glanced around, suddenly aware that no one was laughing anymore. The other bikers shifted in their seats, discomfort creeping in. The uniformed man gestured toward the veteran. "Men like him laid the groundwork so people like you could live freely. You're standing on sacrifices you don't even understand." The biker clenched his fists. "I didn't know," he muttered. "That's not an excuse," the uniformed man replied. "Ignorance doesn't justify disrespect." The veteran finally spoke again. "That's enough," he said quietly. Both men turned to him. The veteran looked at the biker, his expression calm, almost compassionate. "You don't owe me an apology," he said. "But you might want to think about how you treat people. One day, you'll be the old man in the room." The biker hesitated, pride warring with embarrassment. Finally, he looked away. "Sorry," he muttered, barely audible. The veteran nodded. "Thank you." The uniformed man stepped back and put his cap on. "Sir," he said to the veteran, "can I buy you breakfast?" The veteran smiled, a genuine smile this time. "That won't be necessary," he said. "But sit down. Have a cup of coffee with me." The uniformed man nodded and pulled out a chair. The bikers quietly gathered their things. No more jokes, no more laughter. One by one, they left the diner, the door closing behind them with a final jingle. The tension dissolved, replaced by a warm, almost reverent silence. Lily wiped her eyes behind the counter, then brought over fresh coffee. As the veteran and the uniformed man sat together, talking softly, the sunlight seemed brighter, the diner warmer. It wasn't a victory marked by shouting or fists. It was something deeper, respect restored, dignity defended, and a reminder that true strength doesn't need to be loud. Outside, engines started again, fading into the distance. Inside, the old veteran finished his breakfast, surrounded by something he hadn't asked for but had earned long ago: honor.